Okay. I guess we'll call a meeting to order. Rick, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I could.
Thank you.
I just happen to have a flag here too.
All right, that's our guy.
Usually don't have one. All right. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. Are you guys coming? Okay.
Republic
To the
for which it
republic
stands,
One nation under God,
and one nation
under God, indivisible,
Indivisible, liberty.
liberty and justice for all.
All right. And we don't have Melanie yet.
I am here. Can you hear me?
Oh, you made it.
Yep, we hear you
Hi.
and see you.
I'm on my phone, so I will try and get the computer working while we go through it. I'm sorry.
Well, that's fine. I think, so we have a general roll call.
Conway,
Sorry, I was muted here.
Hayden,
Here.
Nivelt,
Here.
McAvinci,
present.
Olson. Here. MacArthur.
Here. Okay, we'll move to the agenda, approval of the agenda. Any additions or corrections or anything anybody wants to do with that? Okay. entertain a
I make a
motion.
motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Jenna?
Hayden,
Yes.
Nivelt,
Yes.
McAvinci,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Conway,
Yes,
MacArthur.
Yes. Okay, next, the approval of the minutes from what? From March. What is the date of that?
March 2nd.
March 2nd?
Yeah.
Oh, March 2nd. Is there any corrections or any issue with those minutes of March 2nd? If not, entertain a motion.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes as presented
I second.
from March 2nd meeting.
Okay, it's been moved and
Plan.
seconded to approve the March 2nd minutes. Any further discussion? Jenna?
Nivelt,
Yes.
McAvinci,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Conway,
yes,
Hayden,
Yes.
MacArthur.
Yes. Thank you. Moving right along to public comments. I know there's a couple out there, or at least one that I can see. Is there any comments anybody has or opportunity? What is it? 3 minutes is what they get?
5.
3.
Says
Is it-
5
is-
here.
Oh,
5 minutes.
Council, I know, is 3 minutes. I
Uh,
don't remember what we.
Well, it says on our agenda, 5 minutes.
Okay.
So can't argue with that.
Yeah, I must have a different agenda because mine doesn't say that, but I'll take your word for it. Okay, well, apparently we don't have any comments at this time, so we'll,
Oh, I have comment
okay, yes, sir.
about the chickens.
Yes, whatever on the agenda.
I'd like to see it, the amount increased as far as what it is now. And I also feel that the setback for having a coop in your yard is way out of line. 100 feet is extremely, it really puts a lot of people out of any chance of having them. And I've looked at other setbacks in the village, and they're all much smaller. So I wanted to reduce that from 100 feet to, personally, I'd like to see 25 myself. And it, just like I said, an increase in from what presently we're allowed for, if we could up that a bit. That's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else?
I don't know if I should comment now on my letter or if there's going to be questions later on that I can respond to.
Well, you should probably give your comments now. I don't know if you'll have an opportunity once we discuss it, but those both, we have two letters and they're both going to be discussed. So,
Yeah, so the letters are going to be discussed. I don't know that I can add anything else than what I wrote at this point. I can respond to questions later on.
okay, well, we'll see then if it comes to that.
You have to tell me right now. I don't really understand. I haven't seen the agenda and I don't know how it works. Is there anything else that I need to say right now? I mean, I feel like in my letter, I told you everything that I wanted.
Yeah, correct. Your letter went to everybody as soon as we got it. So everybody's aware of your letter and the content of it.
Okay, so we can just wait till
Yep.
later then.
I think
All
so.
That too.
All right, thank you.
Sounds good to me. Thanks.
Is there anybody else with a comment? Okay, we move to the chairperson's comment. And I have just a couple. First of all, I found out the reason why Will has not been getting emails. I know I've been sending on quite a few of them, and he has two M's. It's William M. Conway. And I know I have had it incorrect and couldn't figure out why he was never answering emails until we just got that corrected. So Jenna, I believe you only have it as William Conway and it's William M. Conway.
Okay, on the roster?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for the
and-
clarification, Bob.
Yeah, thank you. I was glad you sent that back. I could not figure out why. I mean, I'm looking at your email address and it's exactly what I've been doing, and I don't know why that double M finally caught my eye. But the other thing, one of the other issues are, I believe our next meeting very likely will be in person. There's a good chance of it. It's right on the verge of it right now, so you just need to be aware, unless the village manager has anything to add to that. But I believe that our next meeting very likely will be in person.
Yes, April 20th is the cutoff of that, and we're just kind of waiting to see what the governor does, the health department does. We follow the suit of exactly what's required from us, and until then, we don't really have anything further.
Okay. And I have I had a couple citizens, I don't know why, and all of a sudden now I'm on chairman of the planning commission. I got a couple of people want to let me know complaints, but they're complaining about the parking on Mill Street between Tony's building and the bank. I believe there's been additional parking spots added there. And it's made it difficult to pull out of Cedar Street to make a left-hand turn, because you're turning right into a car that you can't see going westbound. And there's not a lot you can do about that, but I just wanted to pass that along because I think they created a third parking spot on the north side of Mill. So just something to think about if you hear any more from anybody else. Other than that, that's all I've got. I'm just looking forward to the meetings. That's should be interesting for me. Okay, do you want to, we can go down the list if you would like. Rick, you got any comments?
Well, let's see, before last month's meeting, I went over to the township office to check on that little kind of a long, narrow sliver of property just south of the red barn that by the corner of the 90-degree corner of Church Street, see who owned it, because apparently that was in question. And it turns out that the village owns it and reacquired it several years ago. So as far as anything planning for that, for our park, that little sliver of a parcel belongs to the village.
Yeah, and I think we have that listed under new business.
Oh, sorry.
No,
I didn't see that. I don't see it in there, but okay. Oh, the vacant property acquisition. I didn't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It belongs to the village, so.
okay, yeah, because we're definitely going to discuss that point on that. I'm interested to find out what you found out on that.
I didn't know that's the vacant property you were talking about. Okay,
Anything else, Rick?
nope, thank you.
Patty?
Nope. I'm good.
Okay. Larry?
No, work and personal life's been crazy. I don't have anything much to add
Okay,
at this
Yep.
time.
thank you. Melanie?
No, I was just concerned about the meeting, so that was addressed. And I know that you will be hearing some things about the American Rescue Plan coming down the pipe, which is some stimulus money coming to municipalities. But that will probably be the next meeting.
Yeah. Will, do you have anything?
No, sir, not yet.
Okay, thank you. Okay, new business. That little sliver of land that Rick was talking about. Now, I've been looking into it too, and the township indicated that there's no sidwell and there's no apparent owner. Rick, could you fill me in? Because I was up there also and I didn't get, sounds like it's the same information you did.
Well, let's see, it's, this is from Pam over there at the township supervisor's office, and
Right.
she looked it up and it's described, I don't know what DO is, but I think that's the parcel number. Well, it says it's a, yeah, parcel identification number. So it's got its own number, and it says it's owned by the village of Ortonville. And it was reacquired, perhaps, at least it says the last activity was July 9th, 2006.
Okay, I think we're talking about different pieces of property.
Well, okay.
Just because I was up there also, and that one sliver, she went back to like 1940 and could not find a owner or a sidwell listed for that. So it looks like we need to definitely clarify that. Besides that, just with that, in regards to that sliver, I believe everybody has seen the map and understands what we're talking about. It's a little piece of land that comes out to almost to the corner of Church Street. The one that comes right to Church Street is owned by the school. And then that little sliver is just inside of that. And then comes the park. So I think there's still plenty of questions before we, I believe, before we send it to the council. I think there's definitely some research that needs to continue on that to ensure. I have a meeting this Friday with the superintendent of schools to discuss all those parcels right in there, because it is a congested little spot of ownership. And because I believe the park, that you want to be able to enter into that park off of Church Street. And the information I have, in order to do that, you got to go over school property to get to that sliver of land. So, but it just sounds like we have questions with that. Does anybody have any other take on that or any information?
Nope.
Well,
I think, Rick, maybe one day we can get together, we can meet up there at Pam's office and so we can get that issue clarified, all right?
Yes, of course.
Because
Yeah.
I spent a considerable amount of time with her too, and with Jenna going over what records everybody had, and at least the ones that I was looking at, there was no owner for that one piece of property, and I believe we should take it. That's for sure. I think it should be part of the park. But I think we just want to make sure that it's done correctly so we don't run into a problem in the future. Like I say, I have a meeting there with the superintendent of schools. He has no idea what's back there. So we're going to be discussing that and showing him maps and just so we get some clarification, because everything we hopefully that we want to do with that park is going to involve the school property at some point. So I think I just want to get his clarification on that. And well, this comes more to when we get to the trails and wildland park. But other than that, on that vacant property, so do we need to make a motion to table that till our next meeting or whatever so we continue working on it, or just, I don't know the correct procedure of what you want to do, what needs to be done with that, so it ends up on the agenda next month.
Yeah, I think
The
if we want to
motion-
just, okay, go ahead. I was just going to say that I think we would need a motion to postpone.
Okay,
So go ahead, Melanie.
I know it echoes. It's so bad. I can't wait to see everyone in person. I'll make a motion to postpone the vacant property acquisition until our next planning commission meeting.
I second it.
okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion with that? Okay, Jenna, can we have a roll call?
McAvinci,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Conway,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Nivelt,
Yes.
MacArthur.
Yes. All right, thank you. With that, we move to the chicken ordinance. I think everybody's had an opportunity to see at least the initial letter. And we did receive a letter from the gentleman that spoke earlier. And he hit it exactly what his letter indicated, indicating that allowing more chickens up to 8 or 10, reducing the distance to another residential building. And Brenda's, we've had that for some time from Brenda Timmerman, indicating pretty much the same thing, that a little more detail of why that should occur and what help people trying to raise these chickens. I think it's the ordinance has been in place for a couple of years now. I don't remember what the date is.
March 26, 2018.
Okay, so we've had it for at least a couple of years, and I have opinion of a few things, and maybe just to stir the pot with everybody, but I think that with the information we got on it, because the ordinance has been in place for some time, and I don't really see a problem with that. I think it allowed time for all of the chicken owners and for all of us to see how it was going to work out and if there was any issues or anything with it. And I am definitely, personally, I think we can and should increase it from 4 to 8. And the distance, I'm not sure. It definitely needs to come down to 50 feet, I believe, and if not less than that. The other issue is the underneath the permits, number 7 on the ordinance. I personally, I don't see an issue with requiring somebody to get a permit to have chickens and a chicken coop. I think that's part of the standard building business. But once that permit's been issued and inspected, I don't believe it's any different than anybody having any item on their property. Where it indicates going back and having it reviewed and re-inspected, and as best I can find out, that has not occurred since the ordinance has been in place. And I don't see a value in that at all. If there's problems with somebody having too many chickens or stuck a rooster in there or something like that, we're going to get a call, and then the permit needs to be dealt with. I get that, but as I firmly believe that we but I get it. For me personally, I understand the permit for it and the need to have it, but those are my suggestions. Is any other input from anybody or do you want me to go just down the list so we check in with all the members here?
Well,
Rick?
I have some things to add to this. If you look at the 90.36A, where it says unlawful to keep animals, it says it be unlawful for any person to keep or allow to be kept within the village any cows, horses, pigs, goats, pigeons, roosters, geese, or any other animal, fowl, or insect, except birds, dogs, cats, or other harmless domesticated household pets. Now, for one thing, roosters and geese are fowl, so they shouldn't be separated from fowl, or then fowl should be, anyway, it's redundant to have roosters and geese outside of the word fowl because they're all part of that. And then it says, nobody can keep anything except domestic pets, harmless and domestic pets. And I don't know what that means about, dogs that are aggressive, for instance, because they're not harmless. But, and then the very next paragraph, B, not B, but it goes down farther and says in C that it talks about keeping hens. Now, those two paragraphs are at opposite to each other. They are, the first one doesn't allow any animals, and then this C paragraph allows chickens and talks about how they should be kept. So the first paragraph just seems like it doesn't even belong there.
Needs to be reworded.
It does. And then when Melanie and Larry and I were on the subcommittee researching chicken ordinance back in 2018, I guess. December 2017 to
17, yeah.
Yep. What we found was the standard distance from the nearest other person's building, neighbor's building, or was 25 feet in an urban setting. And then it was for for rural settings, it was entirely different. I guess there was no, I don't remember any type of distance restriction, but the restriction was 25 feet in an urban setting. That was the recommendation. And members of the council that, I guess they didn't like that idea, so they made it 100, which pretty much restricted the vast majority of people, residents in the village from having chickens. If you go around and measure in the subdivisions, where houses are much closer together, that there's hardly anybody that satisfies that requirement. That may have been the intent, I don't know, but that's how it turned out. That it eliminated the vast majority of people from even qualifying to have chickens. So I agree that should be put back to 25, which is the recommendation for urban and suburban properties.
Rick, where did you get that from? I missed
I'll
that.
have to look it up. I'll have to look it up. But I know it's in some of the documents that we came up
Oh,
with.
okay, that you guys researched. Gotcha.
Yeah. Mhm. And when I was talking with some, back then, I was talking with a few agriculture professors at different universities, including Michigan State, and they couldn't really come up with a number of chickens that was ideal or a minimum number that was ideal. But I think the articles I read from people who actually keep chickens and were writing about that, Mother Earth News and some other places, they definitely recommended 8 as a minimum because of chicken death, and the fact that some of them get old and if you got 4 old chickens that aren't laying anymore, well, what are you supposed to do with that? So anyway, that's some of the information we came up with, and I think that I'll just stop there for now.
Okay, yep. Thank you. I'll just go down the list if it's okay, unless somebody wants me to do something different. That'll just save congestion. But Patty,
If somebody wants to have chickens, let them have chickens. If they want 8 or 10 chickens, they can have 8 or 10 chickens. I don't want chickens personally. But if somebody wants a coop and 25 feet is the number, that sounds great to me.
okay, Larry?
Okay, yeah, I know we did a lot of research when we were doing it, and I think that, depending on what you want to do to have the chickens for, if you want to have chickens for laying eggs, then, you need to have a sufficient number of chickens to be able to provide enough eggs and things like that. And depending on the average size of the family, I think we came up with generally, you'd probably need like at least 4 to 6 chickens to provide eggs for an average family in our community. I think that when I was reading the thing, they were suggesting, if I remember, we had a document from Michigan State that talked about how communities can deal with ordinances. And I think they suggested allowing 6 chickens, but no more than 12 in your ordinance. My thoughts on that is I agree we should increase the number of chickens. I would propose something like this I did put a lot of thought into this, and that's why I want to share this now, is change the number from 4 to 6. I also agree with reducing the 100-foot to at least 50-foot. And if we feel that a smaller number is okay, that's fine too. But I think we should at least cut it in half to 50-foot. And I also think that if we allow up to 6 chickens, we also know there's a lot of people with larger properties. So to say, well, you can't have more than 6 chickens when I am sitting on 2 acres of land is a little bit silly. So thinking about the average size of the house, I would suggest some kind of a provision that for any lots larger, and I did some calculations, larger than 1/2 of an acre, we could allow them to keep 1 additional hen chicken for every 4,000 square feet above a 1/2 acre. So that means that at a half acre, you could have 6 chickens. If you have, if you did that calculation, then if you have an acre or just slightly more than an acre, you could have up to 12 chickens. I would still keep the max at 12. But that way we could have some kind of a way that if somebody does have a larger piece of property, it can accommodate, we have a calculation where you can accommodate a larger number of chickens depending on the size of your property. I would propose something like that could help somebody who has a larger piece of property be able to keep more chickens. And then also at the same time, if we put a provision like that and we allow more chickens on a larger property, we should also allow an increase to the total enclosed fenced area. So I think it says 300 square foot for the fenced area and coop. And I would say for every chicken past 6 that is allowed, they can add an additional 50 square feet of space to that calculation. So I'm thinking of that as a way of kind of providing a sliding scale to allow people to have a bigger coop and yard area and a larger number of chickens depending on the size of their property. So I'm just throwing that out for thoughts.
Okay. Thanks, Larry, because I think we'll come back to each one of these when we run through everybody. Melanie?
Yeah, so I know some of the things, yes, I agree. I think it should be 50 feet. And we did, when we had our committee on this, we came up with 6 to 10, and the minimum being 6 for the smaller properties, and then we had 10 for the larger. But I understand how, Larry, you're thinking. Were you saying per half acre? I think, is it?
Yeah, I think
okay.
When I figured out I think that's roughly a half acre lot would be probably about the average of the smaller size lots within the village.
Okay.
And
Yep.
then we know there's a lot of people with larger lots that could obviously be able to have more chickens without a problem.
Okay, yeah. I don't believe, according to the ordinance that exists right now, I don't think anyone was bringing in sketches, and I don't think there was anyone coming and applying, nor was anything being checked. So, I mean, if we're going to do an ordinance, we should really, enforce it this time. I have no problems with 6 to, I think the most would probably be about 12 then on the bigger lots. But I like Larry's addition. I mean, I would even go with 8 for smaller, but that's just a personal opinion, because what I did learn when we were researching this was how a lot of places will not sell less than 6 chicks at a time. Like if you go to Tractor Supply, sometimes Hamilton's, I think, I don't know, Brenda would know better. But you have to take a minimum of 6 when you purchase them. You can't reintroduce or add in a bird if one dies or a predator gets one or if it's not laying eggs, because these things, and I remember making this note, and I have to share this, they start infighting, but more importantly, cannibalism. So new birds that are introduced, they start cannibalism in their groups. And I'll never forget learning that. I don't know. It's just something I cannot not think about. So I understand the larger quantity. I like the 50 foot. And then the 300 with each half acre. Because, yeah, that was 300 feet. I'm sorry that you had that. So that would have to go up to 500, I'm thinking. But we can figure out the numbers in a minute as soon as we figure out what everyone would like to do.
Yep. Okay, thanks, Melanie.
Mhm.
Will, you have any input on the chickens?
I agree to up it to like 8 or 10 or something like that, and drop it to 50 feet.
Okay. Well, let's start out at the beginning of the ordinance then with Rick's comment. Do we need to fix A?
And Bob, when you get a minute, I would like to kind of respond from what it looks like from the village end as well, if you don't mind.
That, if you would like to, you can.
Just real quick, when you apply for a permit, you do apply with how many chickens you have, the design that you have, where it is on your property. You do come out and get an inspection as to where it is and that everything meets those requirements. All of that has been done as requested per the last ordinance. What has not been followed up is reviewing those once a year, as was the request in the past ordinance. The current owners that were quote unquote grandfathered in, all of them had 12 or more chickens to begin with, and they were allowed to keep the animals that they had. Nobody was required to get rid of what they did have. We've had since then 2 permits that have been approved. We've had multiple people ask about chickens, but we've only had 2 permits that have been approved from that point. Both of those, of course, are allowed the 4 chickens to begin with, because they started after the permitting and the new ordinance. So, just keep that in mind. You kind of do have a little bit of a different number in that process because you had the beforehand in the news. But again, all of the news did start with 4. You do have people requesting, as I said, but may not follow through. And there are multiple reasons. They do lose interest. They're just curious. They don't end up, deciding to do it. But it is quite prohibitive. And that what has caused an issue with some people not applying for a permit and not being allowed chickens was the distance. So I did just, like I said, want to mention that in general, that there may or may not be more new chickens just by changing that. I know that was a fear with the original ordinance, is that everybody would go out and get chickens because now you can. And I just kind of wanted to share the numbers with that. The other thing, one other quick note. I know it was mentioned that some people do have larger properties. The township is 25 per 2.5 acres is what they start at, with their ordinance. And the last thing, just as a plug of somebody who has experience with chickens, which is separate, just keep in mind, they're not necessarily a ground animal as a dog or a cat. They are an air animal as well. And so when you're talking about the amount of space that they need, not only do they need, the length, they need the width and the height. They're a cubic animal. So, it's not necessarily that they need a whole backyard to roam in, because they do utilize, as any bird does, those 3 different spaces, length, width, height. So just keep that in mind.
Commissioner Nivelt, so if we were following this ordinance, that must mean then the coop it cannot be located on the side or the front yard. And also they have to be fully enclosed according to this ordinance. So the way it stands right now, and I know that's not happening in the village.
Well, no, the coop is fully enclosed, but then you can have an open yard that's also.
There has to be a run as well.
Okay, so maybe that doesn't read as well. And then was anyone grandfathered in with having a coop on the side or front?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay.
Okay, can we, let's go back to if we can, go back to the beginning, and we'll follow down through the ordinance and see if we can make recommendations for, to complete it today, or that's where else we're going to end up holding it over for another meeting or a committee. And Rick, there was a couple that had issues with Section A of 90.36 with the verbiage there. Is there anything that we feel needs to be changed or added?
Hey, there's another thing I didn't bring up about that. I think we're going to be looking at when we get the master plan, looking at the survey results that we had for the last master plan. And in that, some like 72% of people in the village thought that people should be allowed to keep animals on their property. And the 3 species that people thought were most people thought they should be allowed to keep were chickens, bees, and ducks. So if we're revising this, we might want to consider that in that. Well, okay, that's all I want to say about that, because that's from our survey results, that's what people preferred to be allowed to keep. So I don't know how to work that in here, but after part A or part B, I guess, all of it's devoted to chickens and nothing devoted to any other animals. So this might be the time to deal with that. What else? I don't know. Any other questions, Bob? I forget.
Yeah, there's other ones, but I think we need to put section A, B, and C away somehow. If there's a question on it that needs to be changed or added. Because I read it that it just says that group of critters cannot be just run at large, that they do have to be corralled, chained, fenced, or whatever in the house. I guess I don't understand what an issue is there with that, with A. Does anybody else see a problem there, or do we need to fix anything with that?
Are you talking about section 90.60, the running at large one, or?
No, yeah, I thought we're at 90.36.
You're right.
I thought we were at 90.362.
Right.
I mean, also.
Correct. But I think that's what Rick was alluding to, that I thought as regards to people's with their pets and animals on their property.
Yes, and that part A specifically excludes or makes it unlawful for any person to keep any animals except, including insects, except dogs, birds, cats, or other harmless and domesticated household pets. That's what that says. So it's incorrect if you're going to have people allowed to have chickens or bees or ducks.
I think the easiest way to amend section A to bring it consistent and make it consistent with C is to just, in that exception list of birds, dogs, cats, add hen chickens into that. And then let's see, because that's exactly what C is talking about, is hen chickens.
Correct.
So if we just add hen chickens into the list of the exceptions, then I think that we would be okay.
Except that the
If you want bees,
survey that we got from our residents indicates that the
bees.
3 species that they like or wish to have are chickens, bees, and ducks. So
Okay.
it seems like this would be the time to do that, to deal with that, or to add those in, unless somebody has a reason not to. Oh, one thing about bees, you're not going to keep them on your property. So just everybody understand that part. Bees are not going to be fenced in.
So we would have to, but I think what we were asked to do was to look at the chickens topic. And I think that we're kind of expanding the scope beyond what we were asked to do. If we start bringing in ducks and bees, I think that could be a good future discussion to see if we could also add in maybe a section D or section E to cover those other additional critters. But I think what we're asked to do is to start with the chickens. And I agree with, it's a good point to consider the other animals too, but it might be best just to focus on the chickens for this round and then take that up. Otherwise, it could drag out longer than what we would like to.
Right. But you was talking about adding the hens up there, and
I was talking about in section A, just add hen chickens into the list of exceptions. So we can say, except birds, dogs, cats, hen chickens, or other harmless and domesticated household pets. And then that would cover it, because we also have a section that describes how we can manage the hen chickens.
I would agree.
Yeah, and Rick, I understand what you're now under what you was talking about, and I agree that we may want to readdress this so we can do just that item at another time. Because we have several items on this one. If we don't, we're going to hold it over for another committee and get it dragging it out. And I know that's a sore spot of dragging this one out. So it's Rick, are you satisfied if we add the hen chickens in there right after the cats?
I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
I don't like the idea of roosters, geese, and listed separately from fowl, but that's just me.
Okay.
I'm particular about language. But go
Okay,
ahead.
anybody else have an issue if we put just hen chickens in there into A after the cats?
I think that's good.
Okay, let's we move down. The next question was on C1 of the maximum of 4 are permitted for personal use. So we were, personally, I have no issue with 8 in general in the village and not be concerned about whether it's a half acre and all of that. But I think we do need to get everybody's thought on that portion of it. That or else, Larry, you had the suggestion. So could you go back over that so that we can list that and get an understanding of what you was looking for?
Yeah, so I was suggesting that we see a maximum of 6, and then we'd have to add another section to allow for lots larger than 1/2 acre, that 1 additional hen is permitted for each 4,000 square feet above 1/2 acre, up to a maximum of 12 hens total.
Now, Larry, where'd you get 4,000 square feet?
I did a calculation on how large is an acre, how many square foot's in an acre, and I figured that a half acre is just under 4,000 square foot.
No.
So I said, if we have a half acre, what's that?
Larry, an acre is 43,560 square feet. And half an acre is half of 43,560. 4,000
Let's see, I Googled all this. Let me just
square
figure
feet
that out.
is 0.099 hundredths of an acre, 4,000 square feet. So if you want to go increasing it by half an acre, then you need to.
Yeah, I tried to do some math on it. Maybe
21,700.
my math was off, so.
It was.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
But I mean, that was my thought, is that, okay, if you have a half acre, if you have more than a half acre, we gradually increase it so that, at anything under a half acre, it's like the max is 6. If you have over half acre, it increases proportionally until you can have up to a max of 12 and about an acre is what I was thinking. So whatever the math would be for that, that's what I was suggesting. So if you have an acre lot, 12 chickens.
Well, a half acre, 21,780 square
Yeah.
feet.
Yeah, and divide that by 6,
Maybe.
how many square feet?
Oh.
What is 21,000 divided by 6?
Divided by 6. 3,630.
Yeah, and that's where I came up with 4,000, because you're
Ah,
adding 4,000 for each chicken up to 6 more chickens. So 6 times 4 chickens would be 24,000 square feet. So
24.
that's why I said it would come to just slightly more than an acre. You could have 12 chickens.
and then if you have 4.87 acres like our property, then what
It still would be capped at the max of 12
what's
within
the
the village.
rationale for that? I'd like to hear.
I was just going by, I think that we had some suggestions of, when we were researching it, we had numbers from starting up to 6, but most of them said max of 12 within villages and such. So within the village limits, I think that's where I came up with the max of 12, was based upon what we had seen when we researched other ordinances and what we'd seen for recommendations on drafting an ordinance, was within a village or something like a community like ours, a max of 12. Obviously, we're not a township. So that's different.
Hey. Just wondered where you came up with 12.
Yeah, it was from back when we were researching that. I don't have all the numbers in front of me or all the documentation. I didn't, unfortunately, have as much time to review all that because we did a lot of research and I didn't have time to go back through everything that we looked up. But I do remember we had talked about somewhere 6 up to 12 was what we had discussed back when we were
I
looking
think
at
so.
putting together a plan before.
I think that would be a great improvement.
Okay, so Larry, to get it back to you. So we get that. So you're indicating that the minimum or the maximum for less than a half an acre is 6, and the maximum is going to be 12. Can you put that formula down so that it can be added into the ordinance, or do we need a whole new section, or can we just use number 1 where it's a maximum of 4 chickens, just rewrite that for 6 chickens maximum with a formula to increase it to 12?
Yeah, I would probably say rewrite 1 to say a maximum of 6 chickens are permitted for personal use and not for any commercial, or maybe just add in front of that, say for lot sizes up to 1/2 acre, a maximum of 4 chickens are permitted, blah, blah, blah. And then do this, a similar thing for lots over 1/2 acre. For every 4,000 foot above 1/2 acre, an additional chicken is permitted.
Correct. So there would be like a number 2 where there may
Yeah,
already.
so we would do
Mhm.
2, and that would push the rest of them down 1 more. So
Correct.
after that.
So how do we go about getting this can we do that at this meeting and be able to have the document to send to the council? Is Jenna taking that kind of what your statement just was down so that we can get a document for the village council?
Well, I think when were we gonna try to get it to them? I thought our target was to have it to them for the
May
May
10th.
meeting,
Yeah, May 10th.
so that we can I would suggest we try to capture all these things, get it down as best we can, and then we can get a draft with all the suggestions prepared so that our next meeting we can view it, make sure everything looks correct, and then if there's any
because
slight changes, we can adjust it then. And then
I didn't
move
know
on.
that it was understood that we was going to bring this at the May meeting. I just seen it on the agenda for your next meeting and just, I guess I assumed that they were wanting that to deal with the ordinance. But that's perfect because that gives us time to.
Yeah,
to
and I think that's where the way I believe I made that motion. I said we would like to have it ready for our May meeting if possible, because I knew it might take more time to do some research. But that's why we put it that we knew it would probably take more than 1 meeting to do this. But we were hoping that after 2 meetings, we could have something finalized and sent back to us
Gotcha.
by May.
That sounds a lot better to me too. So,
And Bob, that was only on the agenda as a placeholder based on tonight because the packet goes out tomorrow. So we
Okay.
had the deadline being tonight. We just had to at least put it on there. We can always remove and alter
Yeah,
that.
and we can just have an update real quick on it. If we keep it in there, just say, okay, update, planning commission has started looking at it and they look like they should be able to have something to us on time. So
that's perfect. I have no issue with that. I think it's a bit of relief because your number 2 with that was going to take some time to get it rolled out and then try to get an approval on it tonight.
yeah, I think it'd be better that we capture everything, try to get everything captured and as best as we can. And like I said, maybe Rick, if you want to do some math and calculate something closer than just the 4,000, I just picked 4,000 as a nice even, but if 3,600 might be more accurate to 1/6 of a half of an or 1/12 of an acre or something, then we could adjust that number too.
How about 1/10 of an acre?
It sounds like we're dealing with a building for hazardous materials. Okay, so let's move along then.
Then are we good then? I just want to confirm then, is 6 what everyone agreed to?
Oh, okay, you're right. Yeah, we want to get between the 6 and 12 max.
Is it's 6 foot though? I mean, because I heard like 8 as well, so I just want to make sure that.
Yeah,
is-
I've heard 8 to 10. So that's, if we do what I'm suggesting, it would be 6 for any lot, and then larger lots above a half acre could get up to 12, depending on how much larger they are.
Mhm.
Well,
Or you start at 8
if
and
you're asking, I'm all for 8 minimum or maximum, I guess.
Do that too.
A
That's
maximum minimum, or more up to 12 if you have larger property than half acre.
I know I'm good with 8.
I'm good with 8.
okay. So
I'm good with.
if everybody wants to start at 8, we start at 8, and then we could still use the same formula to go up to the 12, and then that means that you wouldn't need quite a full acre then. If you
Yep.
wanted to just leave it 4,000, that would be okay.
Fair enough.
Yep, sounds good to me. Yep, thanks, Larry. Larry and Rick, I think, for getting that worked out.
Can we make it 4,356? That'd be a
Yes.
tenth of an acre. Or would you just like round?
I
it
would
up?
round up 4,400
Okay,
because we're talking 4 more chickens.
of
So
an
what's
acre.
4 times 4,400? It's still less than the next half acre,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Yeah, so-
4,400. Okay, I'll make that. I have this
Okay.
written out, by the way, in case.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll see that. Once it gets written out, we're going to see it again here before our next meeting. I'll get it out early to everybody, so we'll be able to look at that. Okay, down the line, I think the only other conversation was on 5, number 4. Of
Yeah,
reducing that. And I have no problem with 25 feet. That'll allow me to have chickens, so.
Well, oh, what one are you looking at, Bob? I'm sorry.
Number
Uh,
4.
Was just moving down, it'd be C5, number 4.
Oh,
The coop may not be located within any side or front yard.
Oh, before that, up by 4, we have to, number 4 above that.
Okay.
The chickens shall be provided. We have area of 300 square feet for both right now, with a maximum area of 300 square feet for both. That number will have to change.
Yeah, if we have 8 chickens,
Yes.
what would be appropriate for the starting point there? 400 square feet, you think, Melanie?
Well, I mean, what did they say for, I mean, they have guidelines on how much.
Yeah, but the guidelines
them.
is the guidelines says minimum of so much, and the 300 square foot's already larger than the guidelines that I've seen.
Yeah,
But I do agree, if we're gonna increase from 4 to 8, we probably should at least
And
add something to the
at
300
least
square.
double it.
they say a minimum 3 square feet per chicken inside a coop
Mhm.
and a minimum 10 square feet per chicken outside a
Yeah,
yard.
so 300 square foot would give you, 30 chickens?
Yeah.
So, like I said, we have like 50 square foot per chicken in the current one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And that's where, it's like, okay, that should be,
wait. Which one are you talking about? We have 50 square. I'm looking
well,
at
more than,
with a
yeah, if you,
maximum area of 300 square feet for both for the.
if you take our current ordinance divided by
That's it.
4 chickens, that would be 75 square foot per chicken of combined coop plus yard area.
Okay.
Okay. So that's many times larger than the minimum requirement that they're asking. So that's why I said we could make it from 300 and make it to 400, or whatever size you think. I mean, 400 is a 20 by 20 area.
Mm-hmm. I'm just saying that we need to look at that. What does everyone else think? Because this is all based on 4 chickens, so we just
I
need.
agree of just increasing it to 400, and then you're more than covered.
Yeah.
It still will allow for more chickens than you're allowed to have
Yeah.
anyway, so.
Can we ask the people that have the raised chickens what size is reasonable for per chicken, or Or what size is reasonable for a chicken coop for eight chickens? Anybody want to kick in here?
Brenda?
I have half a shed. I don't know how big it is.
Hmm.
And that's enough for 8 chickens. I had 12 in there before.
Yeah, and I know the size of that too. I didn't, I was raised with chickens, and this is a whole heck of a lot more area than any chickens that we had given. But I think just increasing that to 400 is more than sufficient. Does anybody else
Sure.
have any opinion on that?
So 400 for the 8 chickens?
I think so.
And I was also, another one of my suggestions, which would be, I think, relevant to section 4, was adding in that for each additional chicken beyond 8, which means that those larger lots where we have that formula that you can have more chickens beyond 8, that we also allow an additional 50 square foot for that combined coop area. So if you had 4 more chickens, that could go up on a larger lot up to 600 square foot is what, if we use that formula. Add an additional 50-foot allowance for each chicken above the 8, up to a max of 12 chickens.
So would that require another section below that, or just additional to that one where it can just be added in after the 300 square feet or 400 square feet?
We could probably incorporate that within that section, I think.
Are you talking about the outside area? The run? No or no?
Yes, because the total coop and fenced in area
Yeah.
right now with the current ordinance is a max of 300 square foot, which would be the coop and the run combined.
My question is, why would you limit that? The reason I'm bringing it up is I was very frustrated. I had a nice area for my chickens to run outside, and I had to split it in 2, and they were only allowed to use half of that. And I don't understand why.
And you're talking about the fenced in area,
Correct, outside.
which has nothing to do with anything as long as it's whatever distance we require from the other property.
Exactly.
I think what happened is the people that decided this in the council looked at Fenton's ordinance and decided to copy Fenton's ordinance, except they added 1 more chicken allowed. So
And doubled the distance from residences.
at least double. But while we were doing this research back in 2017, 2018 winter, it seemed like everybody was copying, just looking at what other municipalities had come up with, and just saying, okay, that's good enough, we'll just do whatever everybody else is doing. I think that where that came from Fenton, that's probably where Fenton got it, by looking to see whatever all other municipalities were doing, rather than basing it on either science or the experience of actual chicken raisers, backyard chicken raisers, I mean. Probably where that came from.
Well, I did find one of our documents, and this is from the extension bulletin from the university, from the Michigan State University Extension. And this is their suggestions for ordinances allowing backyard poultry. And they are in there, they're saying a minimum of 1 square foot per bird in the coop. And an outside enclosed run may or may not be allowed. The run should be no larger than 8 feet by 8 feet, which is 64 square foot. So, they're obviously proposing a much smaller, or suggesting much smaller run area for the chickens. than what we currently have in our ordinance. I would also offer that part of the reason to limit the size of the run or the coop in the property is the same reason why we limit the maximum square footage that can be taken up by accessory buildings and things like that. You don't want to have the entire backyard taken up with a chicken run and coop. So I think it's to try to keep the area for the chickens in a reasonable proportion to the backyard area of the property. That would be one of the reasons I could think why we would want to have some kind of a limit on the size of the coop and fenced in area for the chickens.
Well, for a building like a shed or a run, I understand, but the outside area is just fenced in. I mean, it's just a fence around it and it's not really visible, I would say. Does that make sense?
The coop.
I can tell you've seen some that it's the fenced in area, it turns into almost a structure.
Oh.
You know, and then I see the issue. If it was just a 3 foot high fence with a clipped wing chickens going around it, it's not a big deal. But actually, and I've seen some of them, they end up with virtually an enclosed structure that's just enclosed with wire.
Okay, I understand that.
But
Yeah.
that part I get.
Right.
So do we want to change the 300 square feet for both, or do we want to just increase that to 400? And I mean, I'm good with just increasing it to 400. Anybody else?
I'd be fine with that as well.
We just leave it at 400 and don't, and
move
that's
on.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
20
that's okay.
feet by 20
Yep.
feet.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I think Melanie, you brought that up.
Is there, does it say anything about the height of the run?
No.
No.
So there's no limit to the height of the run?
Well, I don't have my ordinance with the green belts, walls and fences of the village zoning ordinance, so I'm sure the height is in there. But I would have to get off here to get onto it, and I'm not going to lose the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just says maximum area of 300 square feet for both, meeting the standards of 4.201.d
Right.
green belts, walls, and fences of the village
That's what I
zoning
wanted to
ordinance.
look up, was that, because I'm sure there's
Yeah.
a height in that.
I think there's a maximum height in
Yep.
that of 6 foot.
I would
Front
imagine-
yard, it's maximum of I think it's 3 foot.
Yeah, because they can't use the side yard anyways.
Yeah, and for backyards, I believe the maximum
It-
wall or fence is 6 foot.
I believe so too. So it'd be a 6 foot high,
Mhm.
maximum would be the 6 foot high run, meeting that requirement.
Yes, so
So
there is a height on it, Brenda. I can't look at it. I'm not on my computer. I'm sorry.
Okay, I was just curious because I didn't hear you about it.
the
And
question,
I think if I would have, I don't have a covered outside run, but if I had one, I would want it to be a walk-in. So yeah, at least 6 feet high.
Right, yeah, and I'm sure the rear lot business is 6 feet.
Okay,
You can do a boarded up fence at 6 feet, so,
Mhm.
all right. That's fine.
okay.
so is 6 feet, you chicken owners, is 6 feet high enough to keep chickens in? And I know Brenda pointed out that they're vertical animals, not just sitting on the ground or walking on the ground all the time. Would it be better to have kind of an aviary that goes up around your trees or something? We're trying to make these decisions here based on what? I'd rather make them based on chicken owners' input.
Yes. So as I said, I would like to be walk-in.
Right. But for the
Oh.
chickens,
For the chickens, the
do they like to
outside,
go up?
yes, they like to roost.
So why are we keeping it just maximum 6 feet?
You tell
that-
me. I don't
that's-
know.
Because
That's
that's our,
That's meeting the village zoning ordinance.
Yes,
to do
sir,
that.
yes.
You can't have any structure back there that's a fence or a wall of any sort that's higher than 6 foot. And personally, a chicken doesn't have to fly over 6 foot anyway. So they don't need the exercise. You ruin the eggs. So, but that's my opinion of it.
Yeah, sounds good.
Well, the main thing is if we say the fence is 6 foot, if they have some kind of netting or something to keep the birds from flying out of that and they have that supported up, I don't know if we have anything to cover that in the ordinances, but I can see that that would be something that should be okay to have some kind of something over the top to keep them from flying out of that, because the main thing there is that it's the owner's responsibility to make sure that they don't get out of there and are quote unquote running at large.
Correct.
So as long as the chicken owner has a way to keep them within their fenced in area, then it should be fine.
Yeah, I would think so. So any further discussion on that, we could move along to 5.
Just real quick. So if you would want to have a taller structure, can you? I mean, how tall is a shed allowed to be? And can it be as tall as the shed that I, for instance, have?
Sheds and outbuildings are covered with a different part of the ordinance than fences. So I think that we would have to take a look at those other zoning ordinances regarding outbuildings and things like that to and see how they might fit into this. But for a fence, 6 foot is the maximum height for a fence.
You're sure about that?
I am pretty positive about that, yes.
So am
I
I.
reviewed that ordinance when I was looking at putting up my fences.
Well, you guys, the council went through a lot with a zoning variance in regards to that. And if I remember correctly, that 6 foot was maximum and it
Yeah.
wasn't any real question. And I don't see where we have any question with that. I see that, to me, that all meets what we think that ordinance should be. So,
Well, I guess I would like to know how far I can go. For instance, I have a problem now with hawks, so I would like to build a little outside structure with, knowing how tall I can go.
So I guess then, Bob, this raises the question to us is, do we need to put some kind of addition into the ordinance to allow for some kind of a netting or something or screening above the fenced in area and set some kind of a height limit for that?
I don't know. I think you're pressing what the ordinance is for fences and walls to, I mean, they can put a top on the 6 foot of wire. I guess I have some sympathy with that, but I don't get it. You got a fenced in area for chickens for eggs and you got a 6 foot high enclosure for them. I guess I just don't understand why it's a necessity for anything more than, I guess they could put a net over the top. So in the event one got through the wire or whatever to protect it. But I guess I just don't grip that.
Okay, yeah, I just want to know that if I would build something with a roof on it, can I go to the height of my shed?
Well, and again, when you do that, you're supposed to bring the plans in. So I would, once we get the ordinance together, that's something that you're supposed to bring the plans in, a sketch plan, and then they approve it. And so they'll be able to let you know at that point.
I would have, yeah, that's a good point, Melanie.
Right?
Pardon?
So then it's considered a structure that I just send in a plan for.
Yeah, the structure is subject to standards of 5.102 residential accessory buildings of the village zoning ordinance. And then a sketch plan must be submitted, which indicates the location along with the associated fencing, all dimensions and setbacks of property.
Yeah, that's for the coop. But I think that, yeah, I think that, Melanie, that's a good point, because any time that they put in, when they put in for the permit, they have to submit a sketch of the plans. Those would have to be reviewed. If they were proposing some kind of a fencing or screening above the fenced in yard, that would have to be reviewed probably by the building inspector to see how it complies with the ordinances or not. And that's when we would have to get clarifications at that point if there was something that didn't seem to fit with the ordinances.
Okay.
So it might be, as we've talked about many ordinances, an issue with definitions. We're talking about fences, we're talking about structures, we're talking about, and if a coop has an indoor and outdoor area, that is a structure, not a fence. So we kind of have to keep that in mind. You're blurring between, we might need to define a little more what's what. When you have a coop that has indoor and outdoor space, it's one structure with two separate areas. It's not a fenced area on a structure per se.
Yeah.
So we kind of have to look at what we might want to be a little more defined with definitions, so there's not the blurry lines.
I'm not sure what we have for kennels, because that sounds almost like a similar situation, because you have kennels that can be like the fencing, made out of the fencing material, but they're completely enclosed up on the top too often. And so I'm not sure what our ordinances state about kennels, but you've raised some good points, Brenda. But I think that might need to be clarified, not necessarily specifically in this ordinance, although it might be addressable there, but we also need to take a look at how the other ordinances define those things too.
Yeah, because I mean, I guess I got to believe that if somebody wanted to make a chicken coop and they're going to come in with a permit for that, and if it's a good full size garage size coop, they're allowed to do that because that meets the requirements. Then the fenced in area would have to meet the wall and fence zoning requirements, which would be, if it's a backyard, it'd be 6 feet. I just find that cut and dried. I don't understand where it's blurred.
It's referred to as the structure is subject to standards as well. So I'm a little confused on what we're supposed to be changing.
Well, and I would also think that this could be similar. I mean, when you talk about fences and some kind of covering or over it, it seems like that would be similar to a situation where, like, you have a fenced-in patio area, and then you have like a sunscreen that is attached to the house and slopes down over to and attaches at the other end of the fence. So that screening is really separate from the fence. So I think that is a question. It's not really restricted by the fence ordinance, but there's got to be some other ordinance that probably applies to that type of a screening over an area.
Well, the chicken ordinance requires an enclosed structure, not a fence. So it's an enclosure. There's a whole different, that's what I'm saying. Definition wise, we have to kind of define. So, you don't know what to enforce.
But this ordinance was reviewed by our lawyer, because I mean, that's what is in here.
Correct.
So this was reviewed by Gildner.
Correct.
Yeah, but section 4 does, just telling you, section 4 does currently state separately a fully enclosed coop and fenced enclosure with a maximum area meeting the standards of, so it sounds like the coop is your structure, and if it's a fenced enclosure, that's where it's not clear whether a screening over the fenced area of how that would be covered, whether it would be covered under the structure or whether it's covered under the fence guidelines. So it's a little unclear. I think that definitely should be followed up with our building inspector, get some input from him, I think, and maybe take a look and review the ordinances on structures and fencing and see, because this does kind of create a gray area in between those two definitions.
So Melanie, when you said that the attorney reviewed this and approved it, I was sitting there watching, and the attorney told the village council members that by making the 100-foot minimum distance from a neighboring building, they were essentially prohibiting the vast majority of people in the village. He told them that.
Yeah, no, I know that. That's a whole different
And
thing.
then he
That's a
said,
whole different,
and then he said, well, but you're saying he reviewed this and said it was okay. Well, he didn't say
well,
that.
yeah, I'm looking at what we're talking about right now. We have fencing, we have structures, we have accessory building. So we have 3 different languages going on here. So yeah, I think we need to talk to our building department and you know, get a little better clarification, because I can't believe this has been this confusing for so long with the village, and it hasn't been straightened out. If people have been coming in and getting approval to have chickens and put these up, but
I
we
guess
should look
between
at
now
it.
and our next meeting, we can clarify whether or not you can put fence screening over a top of a fenced wall, which makes absolutely no sense to me. Absolutely none. You're not changing anything, but you're just putting fencing over a fenced wall. But if we think we need to get with the building inspector to clarify that, to raise the height of that another 1/4 of an inch for the wire, I guess I'm lost with that. I really don't see the issue, but if we need to get with the building inspector between now and our next meeting to just clarify that section, I guess we will do that. Is that what everybody would like?
I think we
Yeah,
should.
I think that would be a good idea. Now I am looking right now in our zoning ordinance, and under section 5.102, number 5, it says no detached accessory building shall exceed 15 feet in height in any residential zone. So that kind of sets a max limit for a structure, I think.
So in
For at
that
least
case-
for accessory buildings. So I think that would be what the coop would have to comply to. And I don't know if we consider the fenced in yard as, if we add fencing over the top as an enclosure, then that would also have a 15-foot max limit then. But I think it is appropriate to consult with our building inspector and get his opinion on what our current ordinances how they would apply.
Okay, do we have a consensus of that so we can get past this one?
Mhm.
Well,
Yes.
We're gonna check with the
And-
bill. Everybody, is that good?
Yes.
you're asking,
Yes.
so I'm gonna give you my opinion on this. I have been called out in the past to, from wildlife refuge I was working at, to extract an owl from the top of a covered chicken coop or a fenced area. And so the idea of having some kind of cover over top to keep raptors out away from the chickens is something that's not out of the question. It's certainly not it's not out of the ordinary either. If you have raptors that come in and take your chickens, or I think, anyway, so that's a real thing. And so if people want to have some cover over their chicken fenced area, there's nothing wrong with that. And in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with having fences as high as, say, 10 or 12 feet around a chicken area, if that's what's needed to keep chickens in. Bob, you don't think so, but maybe others do.
It's just my opinion that,
Right.
but I think that'll get resolved if we get the building inspector to look at that paragraph and the zoning ordinance, then that will be resolved. I guess I just don't see the big deal with that. So we're going to do that. We're going to get with the building inspector and find out, and then we'll get that information out to everybody. All right.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Okay. We need to move on. Going on with section 5. It gets down to, I think what was in question was the 100 feet. And I think the two numbers that's been thrown out there is 50 and 25. I'm good with 25, but
So am I.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. In the extension bulletin I mentioned, they say at least 10 to 20 feet from a neighboring residence. So 25 is a good number according to that. I'm good with the 25.
okay, is there anybody that's not good with 25 feet?
And so that's just from the dwelling, from the actual home itself, not the lot line, but the actual home.
From a neighboring residence.
Correct.
100 feet from any dwelling
Right.
on a neighboring property, so the home.
Yes.
Correct.
So we're saying at minimum of 25 feet from a neighboring home. And it also has to be minimum of, I think, what, 10 feet from the property line? Let me go back.
From the, well, 10 feet's in there now, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's good. The 10 feet's good.
So we're in agreement of 25 feet. Anybody opposed to that? Changing it? Okay, we're moving right along. Get down to
Permit.
7. Any other questions between, other than it's 7A?
No, I think those should stay in.
Do you think the annual permitting needs to be done, Melanie?
It'd be good to keep an eye on it. And that's my opinion, so please let me know what you guys think.
Yeah, I think I give you my opinion at the beginning of it. You don't annually inspect pretty much anything in the community. I know the fire department does an annual inspection for hazardous materials. I don't think the building department has an annual inspection of virtually anything with the issue of it. I believe that they need the permit, that it needs to be inspected to ensure that they are constructing it according to the guidelines to do it. But I just see it. If you're not going to do it, you're going to call the building inspector in once a year. He's going to make out a list of every chicken coop, and you're going to send him out there to start counting chickens. And I don't know. I just don't find that as a necessary item, but that's my opinion also.
And I have the same opinion Bob does on this.
Yeah, me too.
Okay,
Seems like a waste of time to have them go out every year and check it.
Yeah. Do we do that for, oh wait, kennels? I'm just curious what it says about kennels.
Well, dogs don't fly, Larry, so.
yeah. Well, we were
difference.
enforcing it anyway, so you want to just take 7A out then?
That'd be great.
Well, I think we need a permit.
I think the permit is appropriate.
And it's just the first sentence. A permit must be obtained from the village to ensure
Right,
compliance with the above standards, and that's it.
except for only 1 year, you'd have to remove that.
Yep.
That
Right.
second sentence. And maybe the permit should be issued, if we're not gonna check them once a year, it says upon expiration or revocation of a permit, keeping of chickens no longer permitted. Maybe the
Just take
permit-
out expiration.
Maybe the permit should be, well, that's possible. Maybe the
Because
permit should
if
be
if somebody puts in a complaint and we go out there and we find out that they're not maintaining it properly, then we could revoke the permit.
Maybe the permit should be for something like 7 or 10 years. So it only gets inspected at those intervals. What do you guys think? Should there be a length of time attached to the permit other than a year, obviously?
No.
No, I don't think so either. I don't.
The only expiration I can think of is if there's a change of ownership of the property, then the new owner should reapply for a permit.
That's fair.
Yes. And it probably would just be a, formality, most likely.
Yeah, most likely. But I think if you have change of ownership, then a new permit would be appropriate.
Okay, so we just need a sentence in there, a change of ownership. I think a permit must be obtained from the village to ensure compliance with the above standards. That we agree on.
Yes.
Mhm.
And then we need a change of ownership will require a reinspection. It's like we don't care about the house, but we're going to check that chicken coop.
Well, you know what? Other properties, other communities, typically you do have to have an inspection when you sell your house.
I
Before you
wouldn't.
can
doubt
sell
that.
it,
I'm
so.
sorry, I'm just being,
I think we're behind the times with a lot of communities, but I don't mind that necessarily. We do have to have other inspections, like septic has to pass an inspection, right?
I don't know. I don't know when the
I think
last
the
time.
health department requires that if there's, you're buying a house that, I don't know.
Okay, are we going on number 8?
Thank you,
Well-
Melanie.
So you're gonna add on number 7, a new permit is required with change of ownership?
Yeah, it just requires a reinspection.
Yeah.
A reinspection,
That's all.
Yeah.
It doesn't require anything else, just so they go, at least that's what I take. We just want them to look at it.
Well, in that case, the permit would extend to a new owner.
yeah, well, I think the new owner would need to reapply for the permit, and then when it changes hands, if they say, yeah, we do want to use this coop and run and have chickens of our own, then they would have to apply for a permit fresh and have it re-inspected at that time.
Which is different from just re-inspecting.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
I think
Require a
it
new
should be,
permit and
I think it should be a new permit because it's a new owner, and a re-inspection comes with that too.
Yes. So change of ownership will require a new permit and reinspection.
There you got it.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. Sounds good to me. And number 8, any
I think
questions?
number 8 sounds good the way it is.
Yeah. So I think we've got it, at least initially. We're adding hen chickens in A, and we're changing 6 chickens to half acre, and with an incremented square footage of acreage to get up to 12.
Are we starting at 6 or 8?
I thought
it was
there was
8.
consensus to go 8 up to
8,
12.
yes. No, you're correct.
Yeah.
I didn't cross off 6. Thank you.
Yeah.
And let's see, our other items was that we reduced it to increase the square footage to 400, reduce the distance to 25. And A, we just discussed just using that first sentence, removing annually and continued. And then change of ownership will require a new permit and inspection. Does that sound like the gist of it?
Sounds like it.
Okay, we'll put that together and then have it for the next meeting. But as soon as it's put together, I'll send it out so we can hopefully resolve several of those prior to the next meeting, so we don't go into too depth of it.
Okay.
Anything else with that? Hopefully it made the chicken people somewhat satisfied with it.
Yeah, I would like to say thank you so much for taking this so serious and taking the time to talk this all through. I want to thank you very much for your support. I'm super happy.
Hey, you're welcome. And we're going to move on to unfinished business. The trails and the wildland park. With the, I'm sure everybody has somewhat of opinion of what they would like to see in that park. From one thing to another, I'm sure there's different issues. What my biggest concern is that what are we going to do to make this move forward faster to get at least an initial trail in that park? My one thought was to get like a 3-person committee and have them review to maybe lay out a program of, step 1, 2, and 3. But I would certainly like to, and I'm sure the community wants to see a trail of some sort. And it doesn't have to be anything spectacular, but something opened up so that it could be walked, and then get at least a 3-person committee to draw that together, but with input from the entire planning commission. So with that, if anybody else have thoughts, and maybe we can go down. Rick, do you have any thoughts with that?
Sure, I've got lots of thoughts, but we only have a certain amount of time. But anyway,
No, I mean to move forward.
I know. I think a committee might be a good idea, but and with a time limit of say a month or a month and a half, something like that, and then bring the committee comes up with to the full planning commission to go over and do like we just did with chicken ordinance, discuss each point of it, and I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah, I think so too. I think because it'll get in a bit in depth too, but if we have that information early, Patty, any thoughts on getting a committee together and
that's probably the best idea. Get a committee together and then bring it back to the planning commission at our next meeting.
Larry?
Well, we do have on council, we already have a Parks and Recs committee. So if we're going to form a committee to look into this, I think that we should certainly invite the council person on Parks and Recs committee to participate with that.
I agree 100%. Because it's going to be a bigger issue. There's going to be money involved and in the long run of things. So
yeah, and I think we really need to think about coordinating cooperatively together between our different bodies, because that's really we need to function as a team, and that's why I think that this is an area where we both have interest on the council and on planning commission. So I think it's appropriate to involve our Parks and Rec committee person with this.
That's Pat still?
That's actually Kay Green now.
Okay.
So anybody else? Melanie, I know you have some thoughts on this.
Yeah, well, my initial thought was to do a workshop since we can be in person and have our maps where we could lay them out on a table in the town hall and just look at, I'm assuming we're just looking at the portion from downtown to behind the school right now, right? Are we just doing a section at a time? Is that the idea here?
So my thought was that we would lay out at least on the initial layout of that of the entire park of where the trails would be and what they would be looking for. Down the line, we could spend time initially. Okay, we're going to want a bridge here. We want a bridge there. That sort of thing, and then it'll take a considerable amount of time just to get a walking trail in that park. And my thought is that we need to initially emphasize on or spend our time on where that trail is going to be and what do we need to do to get one opened, and then provides us time with the community to start expanding on it. But again, that's just my thought on it. I agree. There's going to be a workshop required once we get some kind of a rough draft. Otherwise, we're just going to sit there and everybody's going to start with 50 million different opinions of it, which the rough draft will bring that out. But we can work, like Rick said, we can work from one point to another to advance on that. But I don't know. I'm definitely open for suggestions on how we can move forward with this. But I do like the idea of having Kay Green involved with that. So it's, do we want to do that, get a 3-person committee and then at least let them meet and come up with some kind of game plan? Maybe not necessarily where everything's going to be, but just a game plan of how are we going to move forward with this to get it started.
Did we hear from Will yet? I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
remember.
No.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, that's I think it'd be a good idea to get like a small group to kind of take charge of that, you know, start walking around and planning out where a trail would go.
Yeah, so I don't know, it's I'd like to move forward with it, just get a 3-person committee and charge them to at least lay out a plan, not necessarily where the trail exactly is going to be, but a plan on how we can move forward. And if they can lay out a rough plan of where that trail is going to go, then we can have us a workshop, because we're not going to do it in a meeting. I agree with Melanie. It's not going to happen. There's going to be a lot of discussion and opinions and ideas. So
Yeah.
this will
Bob?
get it. Yes.
Are you thinking of 2 planning commissioners plus Parks and Rec committee person, Kay Green, or are you thinking about 3 planning commissioners involved, Kay, or what were you thinking?
I was thinking 3 and K, but again, that was my thought, was 3. I know with 3 of us working on the ordinance, it was beneficial having a 3rd person there. You know, Patty would get us straightened back out what Lee and I would wander off onto. So I think it's good for a 3rd party with that, and I think it's great to have that council member there who can look at it from a different perspective too. So with that, is there, I know Will had indicated at one time that he might be interested on being on that committee.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to be on that subcommittee if that's what we're going to do.
Do we have anybody else that would like to work on that plan?
Would Commissioner McAmitchie?
I'm sorry, I think I missed what you said, Rick.
I just said I would. and
Okay.
then I identified myself, which I forget to do all the time.
No, but it cut out on you right when you said that.
Okay,
No,
I'd be interested.
With Lee not being here, do we know if Lee would be interested?
right. And he has in the past indicated that he would be interested in working on that park. I know he's indicated to me in the past, but I didn't ask him specifically, and I didn't think about it. But yes.
I did talk with Lee on the phone earlier, since our last meeting, I think, and he was interested in this and parts of, we were talking about parts of, you know, what steps you would take to get this going, I guess. But anyway, he might be interested in being on it.
I think so. And I'll check on that. But at least at this point, we got Rick and Will. Is anybody else at this point? You know, I'd like to be associated with it, but it's just not for me to be on the committee, but I definitely want to help out wherever I would be able to as they're working on that.
Yeah, I would like to help out as well, but I don't know if it just seems like it can't be on committees for some reason. So, but I certainly have my suggestions and ideas already, you know, that I can hand over and certainly help anybody out with it.
Yeah, I certainly think all of us can provide our suggestions to the committee. I think that's appropriate. And I think everybody has suggestions, good suggestions. So I think that's fine. I know what you're saying, Melanie. I'm since I've been elected to council, I've been a little bit hesitant to volunteer to do too much stuff as planning commission because I don't want to, blur that distinction between the council responsibility or put too much influence of council over the planning commission activity. So that's why I kind of hold back somewhat on volunteering too much on these things myself.
Okay, so what we can do though is I think all of us have different thoughts of what we'd like in that park or what to happen. So I think it's really very important to us to send those to Rick and Will so they have an opportunity to see those, and it may simplify things as we get to the end, and everybody gets an opportunity for input before we have a workshop on it. So it isn't basically blindsided that you don't agree with one thing or another, but we need to let them know initially. And I don't think we should be doing all of that amongst the entire planning commission. If you have an issue, then we send it to Rick or Will, and they'll deal with that and look at it. I don't think we need to do the entire board every time somebody has a thought on that.
Well, I would like to mention one thought that Rick has mentioned many times in the past, and I think it's a very good starting point, is we know that there are pretty much existing unofficial trails or paths that have been put in place in the past by people living around that property. And I think that Rick has proposed that we should at least try to map out what the existing human paths or trails might be already in the park, because that would be a good starting point to take a look. Obviously, it would be easier to take a trail that's already been blazed by others and just say, yeah, we will make this official, than to just strike brand new through the wilderness, so to speak. So I think that might be a good starting point, is just try to maybe do a little unofficial mapping of what already exists in there for pathways and trails.
And I would hope that once they have a meeting, that's what we would see, that type of thing. Between now and then, I will have met with the superintendents of the schools to see how we can incorporate their property along with the park, and what his thoughts are. He was very supportive of wanting to do whatever to create that park and be part of it. So, but I'll have those answers and send them off to everybody after I have my meeting with him. But so Rick and Will,
Commissioner Nivell, because that is the portion I would like to focus on, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, is the downtown connect safely behind the school and to Granger for the kids, and to get people off Granger downtown safely. I think that should be the focus. And all I can do is say that.
well, I totally agree. And I think that that's the type of thing that needs to be emphasized on. So safely people can come in from there or off of Church Street and be able to park in the community and do the walk all the way through that park and come around. But again, I think for myself, I'm anxious to see what they come up with. And if they get it out to us ahead of time, I think we're going to be, we can move forward, and we can schedule a workshop once they get through some of that. If they'll let us know that they've done some initial work, we can do a quick workshop and move on.
Okay, so on Larry's point, that's one of the things Lee and I talked about, mapping the existing trails and then mapping the routes that Melanie and Pat and I scouted out, I don't know, 2 years ago, last year, I forget. And this idea of so mapping, when you map trails, you kind of say, break them into trails that are good to go the way they are, trails that need work and where they need work, and then like describe other trails like deer trails that people use, not fully functional trails, but, and map those too, and then just see what you have to work with.
Well, and I think that's what
Try to,
I think that's what we'd like to see from you and Will and Lee, to bring that forward to us. So,
yep.
Okay, thank you. With that, any further questions of how that's set up? Okay, with that, we move on to the zoning ordinance, which we had a meeting with, Tanya, the village manager or council president, whichever she was that day, but with Carlisle Workman on the zoning ordinance. And he was going to get back, and actually, Tanya, you could probably explain it better. The only thing I have with that whole thing is that we really need to, at some point, discuss form-based and what's the other term? Performance-based issue, because that's going to come up at somewhere along there, and hopefully what Carlisle Wortman gets back to us with will include that. So with that, Tanya, you have anything to, because we can't do anything, we didn't get the report yet, so.
Right. No, nothing really. They, like you said, they asked us for specifics. Were there any current hotspots? They asked for ZBA minutes to see, where conflicts may or may not be. What are common questions brought to the office, things like that, that we were able to provide. A couple questions that Bob and I mentioned was the form-based code and the possibility of that for planning to kind of come to a decision, if that's what they're looking at going, a combination of a hybrid, one or the other, just to kind of make those definitions before they start working on the codes. And the other thing was the redevelopment ready community piece and how that fits into the zoning codes. So they were kind of had that dialogue as well.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. We couldn't do a lot because they were going to make their review, and hopefully we can get our past building inspector. He had some issues that he saw within that, and to get his input, who Carlisle Wortman knew and has worked with him in the township forever. So hopefully we can get some of that information from them. But as soon as we get anything, we can forward that out, and so we can have a discussion on it. There's not much we can do right now. So I would have a motion to postpone this until our next meeting.
Okay, I make a motion to postpone zoning ordinance review until our next meeting.
Second.
Support.
It's been moved and second. Any further discussion? Jenna?
Was that Patty that seconded that?
Yes.
That was right.
Okay, thanks.
Rick and Melanie at the same time.
Yeah, I should have said trustee Hayden first, sorry.
Good.
Me too.
It does not matter, Jenna, who you put, hon.
Right.
Olson,
Yes.
Conway,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes,
Nivell,
Yes.
McAvinci,
Yes.
MacArthur.
Yes. All right, thank you. Wayfinding committee, and we'll get a report in a second, but I just want to cover, we're currently, Patty is our
wait,
member.
did you skip C, master plan review?
Oh, I sure did. Yep, thank you, Larry. Yep, back to C on the master plan review. And this is another one that I really believe that we have to take a little bit of time. I know Larry had some thoughts of how we could incorporate the sewer system, sanitary system into the master plan, and also the wildlife park, and be able to have those issues in the master plan. And I believe that we all are definitely in favor of that, but it's getting the verbiage and where do we get it from and what and how are we going to get it into the master plan?
Mhm.
And Larry, I know you have definitely some thoughts on this.
Yes, well, I did send to everybody before the meeting, and I unfortunately, because of the mix-up with Will's email, he may not have gotten it, but I did send the electronic copy I had of a draft from 2018 that still included the section on sanitary sewer. And I think that portions of that are still perfectly valid, like the existing conditions is still valid. That hasn't changed into up to this point in time. Some of the regulatory issues are still relevant. So I think it would be easy enough for us to incorporate those so that it just basically is recognizing our existing conditions. But then I think we need to think about what to do after that point. You know, I think for me, I think the biggest issue is we have to also recognize that there is not support within the community for a sewer system for the whole village. So I think we have to find a way to incorporate that perspective, because the vote of the sewer funding proposal that went down by almost 90% of the people voting no, I think was a clear indication that for whatever reasons, there was not support at that time for a village-wide sewer system. So I think that we need to capture that and express that this is part of the current reality, is that there is not you know, support throughout the community for sanitary sewer. So we have to think about what can be done as long as this situation remains with where the community does, you know, the residents do not support it.
So do you think that we need to get just a couple of us or of you to get together briefly just to lay out? I agree with the part that's in the 2018 rejected plan was fairly extensive on that, but there does need to be clarification on that. It was not something that the community was looking for, which is supposed to be what we have in the 4-year plan. So I'm sure there's got to be a way to get that laid out correctly so that it's not misunderstood of what it's in there for. I get that, but how do we get to that point? I'm not real sure we can do that at a full meeting, at least initially, but if we could get just something laid out from just a couple of us, or to bring back of this is what we would like to add to the master plan. I just don't see it happening with all of us trying to read that whole plan.
Yeah, and this is one I would definitely be willing to work on and participate on, because I was part of the drafting of the 2008 master plan, which this section essentially came from, and also worked through the drafting of this current plan too. So I'm definitely willing to participate with someone on that.
So do we have anybody else that would like to work with Larry on putting that together?
And are we just considering those two sections, the section on saying something about the sewers and section on putting something back about walking trails? Is that what we're concentrating on? Just those areas in the master plan?
That was my thought.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean,
I think so.
I would certainly help him, but then that's like 2 council members.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that works.
Yeah, and like I said,
so-
normally I would be hesitant, but in this case, I feel that I have a lot of extensive background in
And
community
I just
relevance.
feel like I can't be helpful anymore since I was
And I know my participation with Larry would be, he's going to say, this is what I come up with, and I can sit and read it and say, boy, you hit it right on the head. So I understand that. But I think that's something we can move forward with, not in a dire rush to get the master plan changed. That we have an ordinance for the park, and to get that moving forward, we'd like to have it indicated in that plan.
Yep.
But it's something that we can work at without going crazy at a meeting and doing that.
Yeah, and
I
it's
can
pretty
help Larry
minimal.
do it.
It wouldn't take that long. It's pretty minimal. So
Yeah. So with that,
I think I heard Patty volunteer.
I
to
can
do
help
something.
Larry with that.
okay, perfect.
Okay.
She's much better with the verbiage than I am. I can guarantee you that. So,
Okay, real quick, I gotta get going. I gotta log off. So I'm sorry I won't be able to be for the rest of it. So just letting y'all know.
Okay,
okay.
thanks, Patty.
All right, sorry. Good night.
Good night.
So with that, do we need a motion for that? Well, we didn't do a motion on the committee for the trails and parks, did we?
No,
No. So we're gonna have a committee.
I think you just
we
appoint.
Yeah, I know it. So I entertain a motion that Patty and Larry prepare a review of the master plan in regards to the sanitary sewer system and the wildlife park trails.
Second. Oh, you didn't make the motion, you just wanted one?
Yeah, well, I'll make it. I have no problem. I'll make the motion if you want to second it.
Okay, I'll second it if you want, if we can just use what you just said.
Any further discussion? Okay, Jenna,
Conway,
Sorry. Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Nivell,
yes,
McAvinci,
Yes.
MacArthur.
yes. All right, thank you. When we're all done, I would like to go back to that trails thing just to get a motion so it's in the record. But if we could move on to the wayfinding committee report, Patty left us, and which we have the one member on. And if I want to get this right, Melanie, you are a representative from the council on the wayfinding committee, correct?
I am now, yes, and Patty is one of them for planning commission, and we need one more from planning commission.
Okay, I have a question on that.
Mhm.
For two of them on, there's one from the DDA and one from the council. Is that correct?
We have actually two from DDA,
Is there?
and there's one from council.
So is there anybody, do we have anybody to volunteer for working on the wayfinding committee? We're going to committee everybody to death here.
I know,
I can see that coming.
yes. Hey, Will, you want to do it?
Sure. Why not?
Well, it'll be part of the parks, sort of.
Sure.
It also gives you a great opportunity to network with some of the DDA people.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. Sign me up.
All right, cool. It'll be good because when we start, we can meet in person, and that way you can start meeting some people. I think it'll really be good for you to.
So could we have a
Finally get to
motion
see
to appoint?
Yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah, I make a motion that will be assigned as an additional member of the wayfinding committee for the planning commission.
Commissioner
Will
Hayden
Conway.
support.
I-
Okay,
Did you beat me to that, Melanie?
I don't know. I hear echo.
okay, Jenna, did you get that? Who seconded it?
Yes, I believe it was Commissioner Hayden.
Okay, would have any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Hayden,
Yes.
Nivell,
Yes,
McAvinci,
Yes.
Olson, Conway,
Yes.
MacArthur.
Yes. All right, thank you. The Heritage Garden, the council.
we're on street committee.
Street, oh yeah, that's right. Lee's gone. Thank you. Better keep an eye on me. Lee indicated they had no meeting. He had nothing to report.
Okay.
So we can, that's why I skipped over.
I like that. That's nice and quick.
Okay, moving on to the Heritage Garden, the discussion. Actually, I don't think there's an awful lot to discuss at this point, but we need a member to attend that committee. Is it, and it's DDA and council, correct?
Mhm. Did Did you talk to Patty about that? And
No, I didn't get a chance to talk to her.
Left. Okay. Yeah, because I had volunteered to do it for Planning Commission and I am told I cannot. So, which bums me out because this one I'm very excited about, but I'll get my info to whoever Planning Commission selects.
But I think Patty would be a good one. We can see if we can hit her up for that. Don't you, Melanie?
Oh, yeah, I think she'd be great, but I didn't realize it until just now that she's gone, so that we missed asking everybody.
Right. If there's anybody else that would like to volunteer to be on that committee, that would, if not, I will check with Patty and see if she's interested and we can assign her to do that. Because we won't have a meeting anymore. We'll just have committee reports and we don't have to worry about anything.
Would you like a motion?
Yes, please.
Okay, I make a motion to appoint Patty Olson as the Planning Commission Committee member on Heritage Garden Committee, if she accepts.
Support.
Okay.
Commissioner Nivell.
Is there any further discussion? Jenna, can you have a roll call, please?
Nivell,
Yes.
McAvinci,
Yes.
Conway,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
MacArthur.
Yes. Yep, thank you. The CIP, we want another appoint a member on that committee and I'll volunteer to do that.
I was going to suggest you, Bob. I know that as in your past role, you had to work on a lot of things that had a lot of large improvements and are good at planning for those. So I think you would do a really good job on that.
Yeah, I don't mind that. That one I'll enjoy working on. I love spending money, so it. So with that, I guess we need a motion to appoint me to that committee.
I make a motion to appoint Bob MacArthur to the CIP committee.
Support.
Yeah, there you go. Melanie.
That's okay.
Any further discussion? Jenna, please.
McAvinci,
Yes.
Conway,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Nivell,
Yes.
MacArthur.
Yes. All right, thank you for that appointment. I appreciate the heck out of that. The annual plan, I have no idea and I haven't worked. I know Rick brought it up at our last meeting and it sounded like there was interest in that. But I'm not sure the list of things to put in that plan, what to lay out to with a time frame and that sort of thing. And I think that's something we'll probably have to work on continually as time goes by.
Would that be the annual report? Is that what you're talking about? The annual
Never
No.
done
I don't
an
think so.
annual report, but are we starting one?
It's required by the MPEA, and it is requested by us from the redevelopment ready community as well. That is one of the things that they noticed we do not have and we do not have available.
So if we work on that, that will actually be our plan, because then you can follow that report of when things need to occur as what we've done last year and that sort of thing. Is that what you're thinking?
For the annual report?
Yes.
Yes, and we can, obviously if you look more in detail into your planner's guide, it'll explain to you what a report would look like and what you should have in a report.
Okay.
Yeah, and obviously more questions, we're more than welcome to, everybody work together, the building department as well. You kind of get some of the information from him in regards to the zoning and things like that.
Right. So I don't think there's anything that we can, no action tonight on it, but it's just something that we need to start working on totally. So do we need a motion if we have no action on it? Or do we just need to have it tabled again so it appears or postponed, I guess is the proper term.
Well, I guess is this item then going to be to work on an annual report or an annual plan? Because
Well,
Rick, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that your idea was to come up with items for the planning commission to work on for the current calendar year of 2021.
That's what I thought too.
That's kind of was the idea.
Okay.
And
Okay, but I
do
do
that like at some point at the beginning of each or the end of each year for the next year. But this annual report is a totally different thing.
That sounds like that would be one of the items to add into the annual plan.
An annual report, of course.
Yeah, so the annual plan would include the item of do the annual report. So that's actually, I guess they kind of tied together in a interesting way, but yeah. Okay.
But that's what we were talking about last month, Tanya, was,
Yeah.
was
And I really think when looking at the list of our agenda items for this meeting, I think many of the things that we had discussed as being part of our annual plan are now included in this agenda. So I think we pretty much have most of those annual plan items now on our current agenda. So
we do.
Okay, it's just something we need to lay out, but I do like the idea of the annual report as we go along. I think everything that I've ever done in anything working on having that annual report to look back on, which ends up being a plan then to follow in the next year. But
And that would be on the fiscal year, and that is a legal requirement, June 30th. No pressure.
okay.
so I guess I need somebody to send me a list or what their thoughts are, a list of what needs to be on that plan. Like I say, I'm relatively new on some of these of what that annual plan needs to be, because a lot of things come up that obviously aren't planned for. But I'm sure there's got to be a list of items that are almost requirements to accomplish each year.
Well, that's part of it, but also seems like there's a list of a timetable for implementing the items that we come up with through the master planning process, and it's in the end of the master plan. And so some of those, they're not hard dates or years to do these things, but it would be a good idea to say, okay, for 2021 or 2022 fiscal year, we should try to accomplish a couple of these things from the master plan list, in addition to other things that come up, I suppose.
Yeah,
Kind of
that
like
is
space things out over a 5-year period or a 6-year period. Kind of what I was thinking about. Go ahead, Larry. Excuse me.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a very good idea. Review what our project ideas are and the timing that is put on those implementation plans listed in our master plan, and pick items from that to put in our annual plan. That's a really good idea.
So Rick, would you like to start reviewing that a little bit? And I will too, but would you mind reviewing that a bit down through the master plan on those items that we indicated what were 1 year or less to accomplish?
Yeah, I will be happy to do that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So do we need a motion with anything of that? That's just a job that's being done.
I don't think so.
Yeah, it'll just show up at the next agenda. The redevelopment ready communities, I'm sorry. That everything that I've been told, and for grants that we need to pursue that and be involved with it. Currently, it's the DDA or Matt from the DDA and the village manager, and we need one other planning commission member to be on that committee to work on it. I spoke with Rick at one point. He said he had some interest of working on that with them. Are you still interested with that, Rick, of participating with that?
Yes. Yes, I'd be interested.
Okay, to anybody else? With that, I'd entertain a motion to appoint Rick to the RRC.
I'll make a motion to appoint Rick McAvinci to the Redevelopment Ready Community Committee for Planning Commission.
Trustee Hayden, Commissioner Hayden, support. Got to make sure I'm in my right hat on here.
Any further discussion?
Who
Rick,
should
I
I get?
have some stuff that I can give to you. And Matt and the village manager will be your biggest contacts for this. And the new village manager coming in is, well, supposedly is going through RRC right now in his community. So he
Yeah,
should be pretty up to speed with how this works and will be able to help you out.
that was the question I was starting to ask. Who do I talk to first?
So that is a three-way committee that was appointed by council, and that is a council member, a DDA member, and a planning commission member, as well as the manager. The manager is the head piece, that is our contact, and we kind of have to approve that he was, and we had to agree with that with council. So the council member is me, the DDA person is Matt, and the planning commissioner member is now you.
Yeah, I know. I listened to the potential new manager, and he was definitely enthusiastic about that program, especially very knowledgeable in it, and that should make it pretty easy for everybody else. I know Matt's very knowledgeable in it also, so that should be a good committee. So with that, any further discussion? Jenna?
Hayden,
Yes.
Nivell,
Yes.
McAvinci,
Yes.
Conway,
Yes.
MacArthur.
Yes. All right, thank you. Let's go back to Trails and Wildlands Park. I'd entertain a motion to appoint Rick and Lee and Will to the Trails and Wildland Parks Committee.
Support. Except we have to put their last names in there.
Right.
I think you were entertaining a motion, right, Bob?
Correct.
Okay, so I guess then I will officially, Commissioner Hayden, I will officially make a motion to appoint William Conway, Rick McAvinci, and Lee Palshan to the Trails and Wilderness Parks Committee.
Any further discussion?
Change that to Wildlands Parks from
Oh,
William.
Trails and Wildland Parks. Yes, correct. You're right.
Yeah. And with that, with just a quick bit of discussion, I think we should concentrate on what we've temporarily called around Sutton Park. It should be what we concentrate on, but I would certainly hope that we don't limit ourselves to not moving over to Narren very shortly with another committee. But I think we've just about limited ourselves out currently with committees. But with that statement, Jenna,
And
Larry, go
Bob,
ahead.
I would just like to echo, I do agree with that, because I think that we do have a need to try to put some kind of a linkage between the current park that is only accessible by car on Oakwood or walking along Shoulder Road, and find
Yeah.
a way to link that into the village somehow.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yes, that is one of the most important things to me, is the linkage of downtown again safely.
But
So,
I think right now we really need to make sure they're concentrating on the one park, and I'm not sure at some point they're going to name it or not, but that don't make any difference right now.
mhm.
Jenna, could we have a roll call with that, please?
Nivell,
Yes.
McAvinci,
Yes.
Conway,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
MacArthur.
Yes. All right, thank you. Discussion items, and I have one. Is this typically the Planning Commission having this many committees involved in so many activities in the village, because I've not seen it before. So and it's not a complaint, but it's a question, because we, as a group, have, and especially right now, we have 2 council members that are restricted on what they can do and can't do with of being on committees, which I know that you both want to be, but you have other commitments from the council side. So I get that. But is this typical with all of this, or are we just kind of moving forward into a new realm of how the planning commission is going to work within the council and these programs in the village?
It's not typical, but I think it's the way of, and it's good. It's a good to be blended and to start working with council and DDA more. So I think it's a good problem, but we just have a lot of things that we're not usually doing the zoning and the master plan and we have a lot of things right now, which typically we don't have that much loaded on our schedule. So, perfect storm, that's all.
But it just seems awful heavy right now.
Yes, it is.
Per se, and for some of us that haven't been involved very long, and you got Rick and Lee that's been around for quite some time, but some of us it's
And Larry.
And Larry
and Melanie. Yeah.
But I was talking about the regular council members.
Well,
I mean, the regular commission members.
Yeah.
Well, I was a commission member for many years before I came back on council. So.
Yeah, because I've been around the planning commission for quite some time, but just in general, and I know that this type of work was not always being sent to the planning commission to work on, and I agree it needs to be. I think these things need to move forward and make it so it moves forward quicker to the council. I just hope that as we go along, as our meetings, that some of these committees are not, you might get a report, but we have different things to work on, and dwelling on one item for a long period of time, we're going to lose people's interest. And I think we just need to be cautious with that part of it.
Yeah. And some of them, like the heritage, garden, that's, that will be taken care of this summer kind of thing. Wayfinding, that's not that should be a short-term thing. And then that goes to the village. The village will be in charge of that. So it's just really kind of it's just the moment, I guess. Yeah. It will get better. And, our trails are now starting up. Finally we're getting momentum on that. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. I'm just not real sure I'm real keen on it being my moment, but
that's what you get.
No, but it's good stuff, and it's enjoyable. I love working on all of this and working on different plans. But with that, anybody else have a discussion item?
Well, yeah, I would. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say, first of all, I thank you for running the meeting tonight. I think you did a really good job running the meeting, Bob. You kept us on track. You kept us within time limits, so we were able to get through all the business. I really appreciate your efficiency at managing us that way. I also, just to address what you said, I think what you're seeing here with all these committees is a change in kind of attitude on the council from the past council, where I believe that the new council is really much more interested in collaborating with the Planning Commission DDA on topics to really work together much more collaboratively and like a team effort for the good of the community, as opposed to just dictating what the others should and should not do. And I think that's a really positive thing. Yeah, yes, it is. Unfortunately, at the moment, means that we all have more things, because I think there's been a lot of pent up demand for activities that we just weren't getting done. And that's why I think we're seeing all this activity now and movement, is because now there's this pent up demand and we're starting to be able to move forward on topics that were kind of blocked before. So I think that's part of it, but I think it's a good thing and we'll get past it. And I would like to state at this time that at this point, I have a lot of things going on with council already and also being on CERT team and stuff like that. And I have been thinking about stepping down from planning commission at some point this year, but I did want to at least see the CIP get started and have come to a certain point, get a start on the zoning ordinance review, and I wanted to make sure that there was enough that everybody on the current planning commission was comfortable and everything before I step back, because I do want to I do think that it would be better to have another regular planning commission rather than 2 council members. So I'm thinking about stepping down at some point. But like I said, there's a few things I would like to make sure that we have started, initiated, but I just want to let everybody know that I'm thinking about, stepping down once those things get established and going.
Thank you.
I don't know if I'll be able to function, Larry.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys won't miss me. You'll say, oh, thank goodness we don't have to listen to Larry ramble on and on.
My entire planning commission career has been right the same as your time period in the planning commission. So I don't know. Anyway, I did want to point out one thing. You're talking about, Bob, with all the things going on, and some of them are shorter term and some of them are longer term. And it's just an interesting coincidence that the chicken ordinance came up, and the 3 of us that were working on the committee and came up with the research were able to just kind of shoot it forward. Even though it seemed like a long discussion to you, we already had that information developed in 2017 and 2018. So that one went, to me, relatively quickly.
Yeah. I just want you to know that I feel so much better right now.
I'll tell you, put that up a little higher, Bob. Says not the roosters. I was always lobbying for roosters.
I would too, but that's not a popular thing.
I know.
Yeah, thanks, Rick.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Commissioner
Melanie, you had your-
Neva, I had a note here, and I know it's one more thing, but I wanted to bring it up. Larry had us submit build your own workshop.
Oh yeah.
So I did submit. I don't know if we're going to do anything with that, but some of it was on, CIP and zoning. And since we were going to do the Carlisle Wortman, rezoning or zoning book, I think it was on codifications and whatnot, but I don't know if that's something we're still looking at doing, or if we're way too busy, or I just made a note of it to bring it up. I don't know what came of it.
I know nothing as far as I know.
Okay.
But I do like the, I know you send it out and we get things from Tanya and probably Larry too, from council. You're more aware of a lot of those programs that are out there, and just sending out the information on it for the entire commission is, you get watching those webinars, which is not real exciting stuff sometimes, but you pick up it one thing or another. I know I did the one I watched. So I think that getting that kind of information out to everybody so they can let them know that they have that option and opportunity to watch those and participate in it.
That was a perfect segue into what I was just going to bring up. You remember before March 20th, which is a Saturday, I sent to each of you a email notice if you wanted to join in on the Invasive Species Summit, which took place that day as a webinar, kind of. And I don't know if any of you did, but I did, and it was just tremendous information. And they're encouraging us to share it with other people that could use that information. So if you want, I'll forward that email that has all the information and link to the recorded webinar and all sorts of other links to each of you if you want.
Yeah,
That's going to be a real important subject here real soon.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think just sending it out to everybody wouldn't hurt, Rick, or
I'll do it.
Yep.
Okay.
it never hurts to
Yeah.
to do that.
If
Okay,
you don't mind, Bob, I was just going to mention, you kind of alluded to the new manager. Just keep in mind that we did interview and extend an offer. The new manager has accepted. If you haven't had a chance to kind of meet him a little bit through either our meetings that you've watched, or the Citizen had an article on him as well. So we look forward to that. I believe we're excited. He's excited. And May 17th will be his first official start date. So make sure you extend a hello and get a chance to meet him.
Yep.
His name is Ryan Mattis.
good deal. Good pumped up young man, sounds like. So,
We hope so.
yep. Okay, anybody else? Melanie, did you have your finger up there at me, or?
Oh, no.
All right, I'm glad to hear that.
What?
Okay, because we have a motion to adjourn unless somebody else got something. The motion to adjourn.
Support? I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll
Commissioner
support.
Hayden, okay. McAvinci supported it.
Okay, with that, any further discussion? Jenna?
McAvinci,
Yes.
Conway,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Nivell,
Yes.
MacArthur.
Yes.
Thank you, Jenna. Thank you very much.
Yes, Jenna, thanks
Thank you.
for hanging in there with us, and thank everybody for the lengthy meeting.
Good meeting, everybody. Have a good night.
Yeah.
Hey,
Thank
Mr.
you.
McFall.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Get rid of this.